Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at some of those tricky words in English that sound alike or look alike, but have completely different meanings.
Yeah, like, those tricky homophones, holographs, and the homonyms?
Exactly, those ones. So we've got some great material that you sent us,
Yeah.
and we're going to try to make sense of it all.
Hmm.
And I think this is especially important for you because you're in a new country learning English.
Right, and it's like learning on your own, too. You haven't had the experience of being in a classroom or working in groups to kind of figure this stuff out.
Right. So let's dive right in and start with homophones. These are words that sound the same, but they have different meanings,
Oh.
and they may or may not be spelled differently.
Like C.
See as in SEE to see something.
And C
SEA like the ocean.
for example.
Perfect example. Or there and there,
Yep.
there.
There THERE. There THEI. There THEY apostrophe RE.
They're
There.
over there by their car. You could really get yourself in trouble if you mix those up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about context, figuring out which word makes sense based on what you're trying to say. Now, what about those words that are spelled exactly the same, but have totally different meanings?
We call those homographs. A classic example is the word
Bass, bass,
and bass, like the instrument.
BASS.
Yeah, that's a great one. So the spelling is the same, but the meanings and often the pronunciations are completely different. It's like English is playing tricks on us.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not always easy to figure out which meaning is intended. It's like you need a secret decoder ring or something.
Well, maybe this deep dive will be our decoder ring. Now, ready for the real brain teaser. Homonyms.
Oh yeah, homonyms. Those are a bit of a combination of homophones and homographs,
Huh.
but they can be even trickier. Sometimes they sound the same and are spelled the same but have different meanings. Other times it's just one or the other.
It's like they're trying to confuse us on purpose.
Yeah, it's a bit of a linguistic puzzle. But
Okay.
don't worry, we're going to break it down for you. So you can master these tricky words and use them with confidence.
Okay, let's do it.
Great. So let's start with a classic example of a homonym. The word bow.
Bow.
Like when you bend forward to greet someone.
Yeah.
Well, that's one meaning of
Bow.
or even a weapon used for shooting arrows. Bow.
Bow of a ship. Bow to me. Bow and arrow. Bow. 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 They're spelled the same way. Bow. Bow.
It's the same spelling, but three completely different meanings.
That's incredible. It really shows how important it is to pay attention to the context when we're reading or listening to English. A single word can have multiple personalities.
Absolutely. And that's what makes English such a rich and fascinating language, but also a bit challenging at times.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of homophones, homographs, and homonyms. Now let's dive into some common mistakes that people make with these tricky word groups.
Even native English speakers sometimes get them wrong.
That's right. So
Us.
don't feel bad if you're struggling with these.
Yeah.
It's all part of the learning process.
Exactly. So let's start with one of the most common mistakes. Mixing up there, and there. They sound exactly the same.
There. 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 THEIR. There. THEY apostrophe RE.
They sound exactly the same, but the meanings are worlds apart.
It's like trying to navigate a roundabout for the first time. It can feel a bit overwhelming at first, But with a little practice, we can master it.
Absolutely. So let's break it down and make it easy to remember.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with there.
What about there?
T-H-E-I.
This one shows ownership. It's like saying, this is their book. Think of it like the word heir, which means someone who inherits something. Both words have that heir sound and deal with possession.
That's a great tip. So if it's about who owns something, we use there.
T-H-E-I-R.
What about there?
T-H-E-R-E.
There is all about location. Imagine pointing your finger and saying, look over there. It's like giving directions.
Ah, I see. So there is for pointing out where something is. And that leaves us with there.
T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E.
Exactly. There is simply a shortened form of they are. You're combining two words into one, which we call a contraction. It's like a shortcut in writing.
So if we can replace the word with they are, and the sentence still makes sense, then we know we're using there correctly.
Precisely. Now let's try another tricky trio. Two, two, and two.
Two. T-O. Two. T-O-O. Two. T-W-O.
These little words can cause a lot of confusion.
I can definitely see that. They sound identical, and two even look very similar. How can we keep them straight?
Think of two
T-O.
as a direction word, like going to the store or give that to me. It tells us where something is going or who's receiving something.
Okay, two
T-O.
is for direction or giving. What about two?
T-O.
To means also or in addition. For instance, you might say, I want to go to the store too, or that cake is too sweet.
So two
T-O-O.
adds something extra to the sentence. That makes sense? And then two,
T-W-O.
it's just the number.
Right. Two apples, two books, two friends. It's the number we use for pairs.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this. It's all about paying attention to little details and thinking about the meaning of the sentence.
Exactly. And don't worry, it takes time and practice. Even people who have been speaking English their whole lives still make mistakes with these words sometimes.
Speaking of mistakes, let's talk about another common pair that trips people up.
Your. Y-O-U-R. Your. Y-O-U apostrophe R-E.
These two are often confused, but there's a simple way to tell them apart.
Your
Y-O-U-R.
is possessive, like their. It shows that something belongs to you. So you would say, this is your book, or what is your name?
So your
Y-O-U-R.
is for showing ownership, just like their. What about your?
Y-O-U apostrophe R-E.
Your follows the same pattern as their. It's a contraction of you are. So if you can substitute you are into the sentence and it makes sense, then, you're using your correctly.
Right, like you're doing a great job.
Exactly. Now, those are some of the most common homophone mistakes, but there are a few more tricky pairs we should touch on.
Yes, let's explore those. The more examples we have, the easier it will be to spot these words and use them correctly.
Absolutely. Let's start with the affect and effect.
Affect. A-F-F-E-C-T. Effect. E-F-F-E-C-T.
Effect
A-F-F-E-C-T.
Is usually a verb, right? It means to influence something.
Right. You might say the weather can affect your mood. But affect
E F F E C T.
is usually a noun, the result of something. These two can be especially tricky because they're not always clear-cut homophones.
I've definitely struggled with these in the past. Affect
A F F E C T.
is the action, and effect is the result.
E F F E C T.
But affect is usually a noun, the result of something. So you could say, the medication had a positive effect.
Okay, so affect
A F E C T.
is the action, and effect
E F F E C T.
is the result.
But here's where it gets a bit tricky. Sometimes affect
A F F E C T.
can also be a noun, particularly in psychology, referring to a person's emotional expression. And affect
E F F E C T.
can sometimes be a verb meaning to cause something to happen, like to affect change.
Wow, that is tricky. But even with these exceptions, it seems like the verb-noun distinction is a good starting point.
It definitely is. And remember, context is key. Pay attention to how the word is being used in the sentence.
Great advice.
Hmm.
Now, what about accept and accept? Those two always seem to trip me up.
Accept. A C C E P T. Accept. E X C E P T.
Accept
A C C E P T.
means to receive or agree to something. So you might say, I accept your apology.
Okay, accept is for agreeing or receiving. What about accept?
E X C E P T.
Is for excluding something or someone. Is there a trick to remember that?
One way to remember is that accept has a C for consent, while accept has an X for excluded. It's a little visual reminder.
I love that. It's all about finding those little memory aids to help us navigate these tricky words.
Absolutely. And finally, let's talk about then and then.
Than. T H A N. Then. T H E N.
These two are often confused because they look and sound so similar.
Yes, I've definitely mixed those up before. Can you remind me how to tell them apart?
Then
T H A N.
is used for making comparisons. You might say, this book is bigger than that one, or I would rather have tea than coffee.
So then is for comparing things. What about then?
T H E N.
Then is all about time and sequence. It tells us what happens next or what happened after something else. For example, I went to the store and then I went home. Or if you finish your homework, then you can watch TV.
Okay, so then is for comparing.
T H A N.
And then
T H E N.
is for time or sequence. Got it.
Fantastic. Now, those are just a few examples of the many homophone pairs that exist in English. The key takeaway here is that while these words can be tricky, they're not impossible to meister.
Right. It just takes a little practice, patience, and perhaps a few handy memory tricks.
Exactly. And remember, everyone makes mistakes, even native English speakers. The important thing is to keep learning and improving.
That's a great point. I mean, it's reassuring to know that even native speakers trip up on these words sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We all make mistakes. It's how we learn and grow.
Exactly. So don't be discouraged if you find yourself mixing up these words. It's all part of the journey of learning English.
You got it. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. And hey, maybe you'll even start to enjoy playing with these tricky words.
Yeah, like turning it into a game almost. Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier, the importance of context.
Right? Context is everything. It's like solving a mystery. You need to gather all the clues to figure out the meaning.
Exactly. So it's not just about memorizing definitions. It's about understanding how these words are used in real-life situations.
And that's where immersing yourself in the language comes in. Reading, listening, watching movies. All of that helps you develop a feel for how these words work.
It's like learning to swim. You can't just read about it in a book. You have to actually get in the water and practice.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
And remember, you're not alone in this. There are tons of resources available to help you on your journey.
Online forums, language exchange partners, even apps that can help you practice.
And of course, awesome deep dives like this one.
Exactly. We're here to support you every step of the way.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into homophones, homographs, and homonyms, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Yeah, what's that?
Don't be afraid to embrace the challenge. These tricky words might seem daunting at first, but they're also a chance to really deepen your understanding of the English language.
And to appreciate its quirks and complexities, it's like a puzzle. The more you work at it, the more satisfying it is when you finally solve it.
Exactly. So keep practicing, keep exploring, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Yeah, have fun with it. And remember, you're doing great. We're proud of you for taking on this challenge.
We'll catch you on our next deep dive.